Hello. In this video I'm going to show you the materials and equipment you will need to make the contemplative figure. The first material is the wire, and this comes in two gauges. One is 2.5mm galvanized garden wire, which is a really stiff wire, and the other one is slightly narrower. It's a 2mm garden wire, which obviously is a little bit more bendy. I buy these at my local garden centre. You can get them on Amazon and also eBay. Right, to make your figure you're going to use an awful lot of soapy water. So 2 or 3 towels. You need a spray bottle. As you see, this is recycled. I use detergent in it, and I also use soap. So a bar of soap is also useful along with the detergent and the squeegee bottle. Because you're going to have your hands in water a great deal, I also recommend getting some of these disposable gloves. At least for part of the time. You might find it just saves your hands a little bit. A good pair of scissors, a disposable razor, and some felting needles. These are 36 gauge felting needles, straightforward. They've got a feathered edge, or you can get the ones which I think are called starred, but 36 gauge is what I find is perfect for the job. Right, over here on the other hand, I've got wire cutters for cutting the wire I mentioned. Big pardon, these are pliers. So pliers for manipulating the wire, wire cutters for cutting it. And from a health and safety perspective, when you first start sort of twisting the wire to create the skeleton, this wire can flip around a lot. So I would recommend this sort of safety goggles that you might wear in a laboratory, or if you wear glasses, that probably be okay. Also, when you're sort of twisting the wire, manipulating it, you might want a pair of reasonably well-fitted gloves just to protect your hand. And here I've got a sweater. Now we're going to go on to actually making the figure itself. Let's move you out of the way, and you. This is a sweater I just picked up at my local charity shop. It's a reasonably medium to lightweight, I suppose you'd call this. It's quite stretchy. It's made from acrylic. You could find one, if you can find one rather, of wool. That'd be fantastic. But don't use a cotton sweater. That's just too tough. I don't like them at all. So cheap sweater, medium weight, acrylic or wool. A spool of yarn, sewing yarn. This is a good strong buttonhole yarn, which I prefer, or quilting yarn would be okay, rather than your average sewing yarn, and a couple of good strong needles. And then for the wool itself, I've got the figures I tend to be plain colours, and these white colours are the ones I will use. This is just undyed or bleached merino, 23 microns. It's really important to have a fine wool, so 23 microns is probably as thick a wool fibre that you need for this project. And I would use about 500 grams of the merino, which is slightly cheaper than the Blueface Leicester, which is going to be your top layer, and you need about 200 grams of that. This is beautifully soft wool. It leaves a lovely sheen on the top layer of the figure. So you need 500 grams of merino tops, 200 grams of the Blueface Leicester, or if you prefer just to use merino, which is super lovely wool, you need 700 grams of that. If you're into colour, which is fantastic, any dyed merino tops is fine. So 700 grams if you're going to have a blue figure, and or any colour you like. But I would recommend between 600 and 700 grams of this fine wool. Just a point, Blueface Leicester certainly comes in a sort of oatmeal colour or brown. You could just have 200 grams for the top coats of that as well. And your final bit of kit is a sander, and this is mine. Instead of having a sort of oblong shape, it's got this triangular head. which is really handy shape actually for getting into sort of underarms and under the chin. Some of them have are slightly smaller, and they're just as useful. So don't spend a lot of money on one if you're buying it, especially for the course. However, having said that, if you're going to carry on making these figures, this is such a useful tool. It just cuts the fulling down in time, and it saves your hands, more importantly. So these are all the bits and bobs that you'll need in your kit list. There is a PDF download which has all of these on it to bring to the course, and onwards and upwards to the next step.